welcome, Dan and Amy. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and to geographically give people an idea of where you're at, it is Michigan, and you are my neighbor to the north. I'm in Ohio, and it is the thumb region. So everybody around here knows, but I don't know if the rest of the world knows. If you hold up your hand, and I was thinking about how to tell people this, if it's your left hand, you're looking at the back of your hand, and the thumb, that is Michigan's shape, and you guys are on the thumb.
Yep,
we are.
So tell me, what makes the thumb region special?
So from an outsider's perspective, because I moved here, I'm from Metro Detroit, but my wife, Amy here, is from the thumb. But the thumb is great. I mean, it's just rural America, right? So we are surrounded by, open fields, farmland, just lots of public land. So it's open, it's private. We get to enjoy nature and the outdoors. But it's just a farming community in general.
But also, we're like 45 minutes away from the beaches too, because the whole thumb's surrounded by a lake. So there's a lot of water around the area too. Yeah, it's a really nice place. It's small towns, small communities, and a really great place to raise a family.
Yeah. So you guys met in Detroit, which is also a very cool city. I always am telling people it's a little bit like Cleveland, like kind of taking old buildings and making them new. Like we have a lot in common, I think, Cleveland and Detroit. But I've only been there a couple of times, but I've always had a great time, and it's super cool, good food scene. Oh, yeah. So you guys met in Detroit, and you both had careers that were not farming.
Correct. Yeah. So we met, what was it, like 12 years ago? 13 years ago?
It's 2012.
Yeah. And we actually met at work. I worked in nonprofit and he worked in PR. And so his PR firm was working with my nonprofit. And that's actually how we met way back in the day.
She was my client.
And so that was an exciting time. We were both in our 20s living in Metro Detroit, enjoying the scene, the sports, the food, the entertainment. We were having fun.
Oh, yeah. You were living the high life there in Detroit.
And from someone who grew up in the thumb, like Detroit was
definitely
really
big city.
To me. Yeah. So I moved down to Detroit for grad school. And I went to Wayne State University for grad school and then kind of stayed in the area for over 10 years. I believe I was down there. And that's how I met Dan. We lived down there. We got married. We had a baby, all the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then you have an uncle who comes along and is like, do you want this farm? How did this happen? It's like so exciting. It's like so unexpected, right?
Yeah. So if you take a step back, actually, there's a little more to that story. We, when we were first dating, I think, maybe we just started dating, and we actually came here to pick blueberries in the summer one time when we were visiting family, and we pulled out of the farm after picking, and we like looked at each other and we were like, man, like that would be the dream. Like one day if we could buy the farm and take it over and run the blueberry farm, like that would be awesome. And we were both I was still really early in my career, and like it wasn't even a possibility. And so we said that to each other, and we never said it to anyone else, because we had these career paths set in place. We were doing our thing, and we left. And then I would say maybe 3 or 4 years later, we got a call from Amy's aunt, and she said, hey, me and your uncle want to retire, and we want you guys to buy us out and take over. And so we were like, wow.
Just kind of like that's
like I said, we had never imagined interest in doing that. And so when they came to us, like they kind of chose us as their successors out of all Amy's got a ton of cousins and other people that all live up here. And for some reason they wanted us to do it. So we said, we would love to, we need to think about it. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't have to be today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll have to make it work. So
I think at the time they had said like, we probably want to retire in 5 years. Around the time.
So it gave you like, it wasn't like an immediate thing. Okay.
It was shortly after we got married. We didn't have any kids. We were living in Metro Detroit still. And we, we had our careers that we were growing. We thought, well, that's really cool, but I don't see us moving back to the country at that point.
I don't think there was a possibility. I mean, like, early on in your career, you're still paying off student loans. You're still trying to, elevate in your career and, make some more.
Oh yeah, your 20s are for like hustle
Yeah.
culture for
So
sure. It was for me, definitely.
at
Yeah.
that point, I don't think we couldn't have even afforded it, right? I mean, to
Mm-mm.
upend our lives and do that. And so that all happened. And then we, as the years went on, we advanced our careers and we got, we were just a little bit more comfortable. I think we had we had sold our first house. We were living in our second house. We had now had our son. And it was just, it was interesting because we still didn't think it was possible, right? Because we were working and PR is a hustle. So I was working and nonprofits a hustle. So we're working
I was actually running events in Detroit. So like I needed to be in Detroit where my events were for work.
And all my clients were Detroit, Metro Detroit. And I did a lot of automotive industry. So even if they weren't Detroit, my work was in Detroit. And we were in the office every day. We had grandparents and babysitters watching the kids. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And when that happened and we all went home and started working remote, it just like a light bulb went off in our head and we were like,
such a big shift for so many people. Definitely.
Yeah. And so we were like, well, we can make this work now because we're not commuting to an office. We don't have to be anywhere. So I had really great managers at that point in time. And I was like, I'm moving up to the thumb and we're going to do this. And so we just figured it out. We figured out the finances. We worked with our aunt and uncle on the succession plan and all that. And and we made it happen. So with all the bad and the negative that came with the pandemic, this is one really bright spot for us. We got to take over this farm and move up here. And for a while, we both kept our jobs until it became too much. And then I ended up retiring, I retired and started doing the farm. And so it was, it was just a weird, I don't think it would have ever happened if the pandemic didn't happen and we were able to do that. So we're grateful for that. Again, all the negative that came, at least we had something positive that came out of the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. And Amy, I read that when you were growing up, you would pick blueberries and it was just like awesome memories. Was it kind of like, was Dan more like a city boy? Was it like a fish out of water when you first came there? Like,
yeah. So I grew up in, I grew up in a smaller town, but I grew up around the cities, right? Like my family owns a tire shop in Lincoln Park, which borders Detroit and is urban, and I grew up working there. Like that's where I spent all my time working in a tire shop, like through high school, college and whatnot. And I was just always in close proximity to the city, to Detroit, to all the metro communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was funny. It was kind of like an awakening because I love being outside. I love the outdoors. I never had as much of access or mentorship. So like when I moved up here, I started, I got into hunting and doing all the things outside. And it was a shock for Amy because she used to brag about how she married a non-hunter. Because everyone up here is for our meat.
Oh no! And now you've got the deer carcasses in your kitchen and everything in the fridge.
Now
I have some relatives who do it. I don't.
Yeah, wild game is definitely a staple in our house. We use venison for everything, and
nice.
I have her dad to thank for that because he's the one that took me out and was my mentor in that world.
That is a bonding experience for people. Like absolutely, it's a world that I don't know, but I get that that is a big deal to go hunting with somebody. Nice.
Yeah.
And one thing that this sort of is a segue, one thing that goes good, I bet with venison would be blueberries, like that sweet, because I love pork with like fruit and the sweet. And I wanted to see like the climate where you're at, your ancestors, when they came. Where were they from and why did they pick this area? Is it like agriculturally better for growing blueberries?
Yeah. So where we are actually growing blueberries is very difficult. So that's why Michigan has a lot of blueberry farms around the state, mostly on the west side of Michigan, like Southwest Michigan. We are one of the only blueberry farms like in the Thumb region. Just because it is really hard to grow, you need sandy, acidic soil. What are some other conditions?
Well, just sandy, acidic soil. And I mean, it's got to be a good temperament, right? Like, I mean, it's okay to have the cold winters because the bushes go dormant after the frost. But you need the right amount of rain and the right amount of sun and all that stuff. So and we get the moisture, and our climate is kind of, and this isn't scientific, but just based on experience here. But we're surrounded by the Great Lakes, right? Like,
Yep.
In the thumb, right? We're like a peninsula in the water, kind of. So it's we get that extra, that weather from the lakes. I think that's what
it's like. You have lake breezes coming from both sides. Like it's sort of like there's either or. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, it's again, I don't know the history, but my assumption is probably that this was a glacial lake millions of years ago, because the soil here is sand. I mean, when you dig down, when you get past the topsoil, it's sand. And it's just,
that sounds like my front yard, which is, I'm close to Lake Erie, and I cannot grow anything very good.
Oh,
but maybe I should try blueberries actually, because there's sand. Yeah.
And
you guys need to send me a little sprig
from our customers. It's because, like, people around this area, a lot of people have gardens and they try to garden. They're like, well, we can't grow blueberries, or how do you grow blueberries? Like, our bushes on this farm, we have 13 acres of blueberries, but they were planted back in the 1950s by the original owner, Jerry Turner, who started the farm. So the farm actually opened for business in 1964, because it takes a few years, like after you plant, for the bushes to reproduce berries,
giving you the fruit. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so it started in 1964, where it was actually open to the public. But the bushes on the farm, like the root system, that's how far back, 60 years plus they go.
They're rooted in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And
so
your aunt and uncle, tell me more about their story.
Yeah. So my aunt and uncle, so Jerry Turner ran the farm for about 24 years. And then my aunt and uncle, that was her uncle. So she bought the farm from her uncle. He didn't have any children. Same thing. Him and his wife wanted to retire. They wanted someone in the family to take it over. So my aunt and uncle bought it from him, I think around 1988. And they were in the same situation we were in when they bought the farm, like little kids. They had, I think at that time they had 2 little kids, or one and one on the way. Very, very similar stage of their life when they bought the farm. And then they ran it for 33 years. So we are the 3rd owners, but it has remained in the family for 60 years.
Yeah. So it's been...
that is so cool. A family business, a legacy.
Yeah, it's awesome. And people love that, right? Again, I don't know if it's the small business or the small town community, but people love that we kept it in the family. And they are still, her aunt and uncle are still very involved. So that's cool. They sold us the farm, their old farmhouse, and they built a house next door. So
nice.
So we still have them, like just the historical knowledge and
I was going to say all the wisdom that they have from all of those years. Yeah. That's wonderful. I really like that idea.
Definitely, we are asking them all the questions as we're learning, because our background was not blueberry farming. We bought them.
Right. It was different. Although I'm guessing, I feel like especially Dan's PR background maybe helps you guys share your story, right?
Well, yes. I would say I would give the credit to Amy on that. So when I retired from PR, I got rid of a computer. I didn't have a computer for 2 years, and Amy actually handled all the PR, and she got us stories in all the local papers the year we took over.
Nice.
And it was great. It helped us so much that year, and just to get the community. What it helped doing is, because traditionally they never really did a whole lot of advertising or anything like that. So it was a lot of people, like, it was generational.
Yeah, just word of mouth. They just know, like, it's here. Yep.
It opened us up to some new customers around the Thumb region and some of the northern metro that had never heard of us, or didn't find us, because we're off the beaten path. We're not on any main street. We're down on a dirt road. There used to be one other house. Now her aunt and uncle are here, so there's 3 houses on our road.
Oh, that is the dream. The older I get, I want no neighbors. I want to be where no one can find me. It sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful. But yeah, and it always surprised me when people are like, "Oh, I never knew that was there." Like, people who are local, I'm like, "How did you not know? You've lived here your whole life." And so that was one of the things, like, when we decided to take over the business, and I was working with the MEDC and finding out, different ways that we could promote and market. Like my aunt and uncle did not even have a Facebook page.
They had nothing. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, that's one thing that we're going to start up. So I took some classes online with them and learning, different how to grow a Facebook page, how to start a Facebook page.
Oh yeah, all that marketing stuff. Yeah.
So I started that the first year, and it's amazing how many people were like, oh, we learned about this through Facebook. Just because, it was a tool that they never used before. And it reaches a lot of people. The first year we did some paid advertisement to grow the page, but then since then, our page has a ton of interaction, ton of great posts, and we have it.
And then you can put updates as to like sort of the schedule, or we have this, or your hours.
It's raining today. It's, or like, it's perfect out here. Like, get out here now, right?
Wow,
yeah. So we have about over 5,000 followers now.
Nice.
In just a couple years. So it's been really nice to grow.
Starting from scratch. And it's
no social media presence to like using it as it's intended to be used and connecting with people. Have you done anything with like school kids or like in the region, like having people come out and like on an educational side?
Yes, we've had a few different tours. So we worked the first year we were out here, like summer day camps. We would have some local summer day camps, bring their bus out, bring the kids. We've worked with the Great Start to Scola, and they have summer play groups. And so they've done some reading groups out here. Same with the library. We've had our local library have summer play groups.
That's so good. Yeah.
And then the local college, Saginaw Valley State University, came out this summer with their
it's like always learning. It's seniors. It's older. It's like it's a group of people through the college that want to continue learning, right? So
nice.
Yeah, it was Saginaw Valley, and that was Amy's undergrad where she went, and it was actually your old teacher who connected.
I had an internship at the school, and
so it was connections that Amy had made through college and her internships and whatnot. So we're pretty much open to all of that, right? Because we like it, and plus it introduces. So a lot of times with like the play groups, it's kids coming and the parents are just going because they need something to do in the summer with their kids. But then we're introducing the parents and this next generation of potential customers to the farm and the experience. So we're always open to do those things, and we enjoy having them out. And we always give a tour and explain the history and exactly kind of what goes on here. So it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, I love to go on farm tours and just kind of see the stuff. And it's from somebody who is kind of like a city person. It's surprising. What's the most surprising to people when they see it is like how they're grown, or are people sort of like, I didn't know that? Like what's like the thing that they discover when they visit usually?
I think it's when people actually take the time to ask about the business, or like the farming, the growing of the bushes. I think they're amazed to learn how much work is involved. So
it's hard work. Yeah.
We have about 8,500 bushes, I think, total. The last count they did. And you prune them all by hand. So like with literally lopper shears, Yep. And so all winter or all fall and winter, that's what I'm doing. And it's only me doing that because they still works full time. So I'm on the farm side of it. And so, so I think people are always amazed by that. And how much work goes into the blueberries. And also I would say the age of them, like when they're like, oh, when did you plant these? It's like, well, these were planted long before me.
And the size of our bushes, they're probably not supposed to be this big, but they're huge. Like they are like some of them are 6 foot tall. Like they are very big.
You could go hide in there. Yes. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to catch up. It's a constant battle to try and prune the farm down every year. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you prune, is there a way to, I'm sure there is like a way, like I'm thinking of just what I like hydrangeas, like I look at them and you find there's ways to do it like at an angle and like where the branch is dead. Is it something like that? Like, are you looking for the thin parts that are dead, like after the harvest?
Yeah. So you're going to clear out anything that's dead. And then you also want to prune out the oldest, like the thickest, biggest branches. And the idea is, one, you want to be able to support and promote new growth, because that's what's going to keep bushes producing for years to come.
You got to keep them fresh.
And there's the technique is you're trying to kind of open up the canopy so the light gets into the crowns of the bushes, and you're trying to maintain them, keep them smaller.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's all of that. It's kind of for promoting the growth. I mean, it's like a lot of other fruits, right? Like apple trees, and you got to cut out some of it to make sure that the berries that grow are going to be the best quality.
And because we are a U-pick farm, and it's the scariest thing to do, but like in the spring, we have to go through and just cut off what is going to be beautiful berries so people can actually get down the rows to pick.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
On the bushes, they just weigh the bushes down because they're so loaded with berries. And then the rows the bushes from the one row to the other row are actually like touching each other.
Yeah.
And so we try to trim it so people have like a good experience while they're picking too.
That's a good point. I would say that our business isn't just farming. It's a balance of maintaining the experience for people as well as producing the crop. So it's very a balance. And it's not just, it's different than a cash crop, or a field crop that somebody's growing to harvest, right? We want to have people come out and have a good experience. So we always have
I know. I think the U-pick has got to be like one of the oldest ways of like agri-tourism, where you can just come and do that. Like I have so many good memories of doing that with my mom. I don't remember if it was blueberries, but we picked something. I think it was strawberries. What's the season that you go and get them?
So blueberry season, well, with our variety of blueberries, so we have about 6 total, but 95% of our farm is blueberry and blue crop. So those berries are ready to be harvested usually the middle of July to the middle of August. Now it depends on the weather. Like this year was was just weird. So we were ready like the beginning of July and went to like beginning July to beginning of August, which throws people off because people just know they come like middle of July to middle of August. So
it was a weird weather summer for sure.
Was early around us, so all the all the crops. So it was so it was a little bit different. So there's no like schedule to it per se, right? Like it's literally me and Amy walking out in the fields and looking at the bushes and being like, all right, we're ready to open in 2 days. We're ready to open in 3 days. So we never really know.
Yeah. It's you got to play by ear for a lot of it, and it's nature and science. And the last thing I want to ask you guys is for two recipe ideas, a tried and true recipe that your whole family loves and a new one that you've tried that's been a big hit.
So during the season, we eat fresh berries because we are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. So our days are long. We don't have time to like bake or cook. We're eating them fresh.
No, you're just walking around eating them.
Like just popping them in. My kids, our kids love them. Recently this summer, they really got into eating blueberry popsicles. So that's been easy to make. So just with like yogurt and the blueberries, the milk, freeze them, right? And then it's a healthy snack for the kids, but they love it. And it's nothing that I have to spend time baking. So that was what we did new this year. And actually that recipe came from the library play group. So the library that came out, they did a book and some blueberry crafts and handed out the recipes. So that was one from the library play group. And then our go-to, so we like to have the berries picked and give them to my mom who lives really close because she loves to bake. And so she will make all different things with our blueberries and then bring them back to us. So then we can eat during the season. Like I love when she makes these lemon blueberry muffins. Like there's like a little lemon zest.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love the citrus with that too.
And then we have a fast, like easy breakfast as we're like walking out to the blueberry shut in the morning. And then on our Facebook page, I think I posted the recipe this year. There's 2. We had a bake off our very first year just for something fun to do. And it was a fundraiser for the local library bank where it's a they give books to, it's the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. That's what it is.
Oh, yes.
And
love that. Love what Dolly does. Oh my God.
You can get a book every month. And so we decided that first year that we would do a bake off and, sell pieces of the pies that people bake. And that would be a donation back to the Imagination Library. And so we had 2 really good recipes come out of that. The one is my mom's tried and true. And I think they call it the Turner's. Like it's the one they've made here forever, but it's a fresh blueberry pie. It's so good. And it has you have the crust, but then there's cream cheese in it. And then, but you have to use fresh blueberries. That's one I like to promote because then people come out and pick the fresh blueberries to make that
to get the fresh ones
because it's not as good.
Smart.
And then there was a new recipe that my sister found online that was the winning recipe, and it was this blueberry cheesecake pie. It was all the things in one. And she didn't actually make it. She gave the recipe to my mom, who then also made that.
Got to give it to your mom.
Yeah, I have both of those on our Facebook page, the recipe, if you want to grab them. They are delicious. Yeah. And our daughter, our youngest daughter, was actually born during the blueberry season last year. Our little blueberry baby. So this year, for her birthday party, we had her very first birthday, and it was blueberry themed, of course.
So cute.
Little blueberry baby born on the farm, but those were her birthday cakes this year. All blueberry.
These kids are growing up. Do you think that you're going to pass it down to them, or do you know which one would want to do it the most?
No, I think, we'll let them do whatever they want to do if it's something that they're interested in. I think I would love for them to be able to run it, when they're older, like in college, and use, then that way gives us a break, and then they can kind of use that money towards what they need it for. It was funny. We were dropping my son off for his first day of kindergarten in August, and I think he had on his I want to be a teacher. And then it was that morning, and he told us, he said, "Can I change it to be a blueberry farmer?" And I said, "No, we can be a blueberry farmer." And then he followed that up with, "Because I want to live with you guys forever." And we're
my daughter is the same way. Once they get a taste of the working world, they're like, "Can I come back?"
Yes. I want to live with you forever. So we'll see. I mean, they love it. They love being out there. That's the awesome part about owning a family business. Because we actually live on the business is the people know our kids, they can recognize them, and they're always on the golf cart with us, taking them out. So they're they're all under 5. We have 3 kids under 5 and under, but
you guys are in the trenches.
We're in the trenches.
I can't believe you have 3 kids under 5. I didn't realize they were all so little bitty.
Yeah, 5, 3, and 1. And it's just awesome to have them out there with us. Dan had the swing in the shed, the baby swing this year. I mean,
nice.
I was on maternity leave from my job with our daughter, our second born. I was on a maternity leave the first summer, so she was out there with me in little bassinet all summer. So it's been nice to be able to include the kids in the chaos.
Yeah. Farm kids.
Yeah, they're starting their lemonade stand, so I'm sure that'll grow as they grow. And we can't wait to have them grow and actually help us a little bit more out there.
Yeah, cool. Well, you guys are awesome. I'm so glad to meet you. And please stay in touch with me, and I'll let you know if I'm ever in the area. And I would love to come out and get a tour myself and eat some of your blueberries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add to one of the biggest things that helped us, and it was through my my previous work in public relations, because back when I did that, the MEDC was actually a client of mine. And so it was working with them. I knew about a lot of resources that I think a lot of people don't know about. So for us to be able to get the business up and running, because we started a new business, a new LLC and all that stuff when we took over.
Yeah.
And so me having that network and working with the MEDC really opened a door to a lot of business consulting and a lot of just help in figuring out how we can do this, how we can make it work, and providing us some historical knowledge on the region, the farming community here. So I think that is just one big point. I think that helped us really get this place up and running for us and for our tenure running the farm.
Yeah, a good resource of helping hands. That is important to note. And I'm going to put a link to that below, and then I will also put one to some of those recipes, hopefully, and we'll go from there. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.